In anticipation for Persona 4 Revival, I have done absolutely nothing in regards to preparation for its release. I've played the modern Persona games multiple times within recent years, so playing them again isn't really a priority of mine. My priority is Final Fantasy VII Remake since that finally came to Xbox. During my normal Cybershelf binge, I had run into a tweet about cut content from Persona 5, so I felt inspired to do a similar video to his bonus video format, which ironically brought him back from his near-decade hiatus. This video will have content ranging from things I like about the game to cut content and such. Basically just a lot of the things I find interesting about Persona 3. To even be able to use debug mode, you need to be playing an original version of Persona 3 using a cheat device. However, the more accessible option would be using an emulator, like 90% of the internet does nowadays. To activate it, you must use the following codes. Pressing triangle will send you to an unexpected cutscene editor, which you can simply use to completely lag the game out. The cutscene editor seems to have potential for some funny shit, however, finding footage of it was pretty hard. If anyone finds a good quality clip of it, I highly recommend uploading it so we have more publicly available footage. The calendar editor is pretty straightforward. You change the date. Not really useful unless you want to check every NPC dialogue, which honestly only appeals to a certain minority of people. Speaking of NPC dialogue, you might want to check out some of the random NPCs throughout the game. They have pretty funny dialogue. One of my favorites is the guy who hangs out by the movie theater in Tatsumi Port Island. Another debug code has a feature a lot of people may be familiar with, the ability to skip floors, which was notably repurposed for Persona 3 Reload, as Fuka learns Tartarus Search, which basically does the exact same thing as this code. You'll also be given this prompt automatically when encountering a rare shadow upon entering a floor. However, this is pretty rare, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people forgot about this mechanic in Reload. It's hard to tell if this was meant to be an ability in-game or if Atlus just threw it in there. Either way, this is a very useful ability, and I'm glad Atlus put it in there because it makes grinding Tartarus a lot less painful. Unused 2D models of early names for in-game locations can be found, and it's very apparent these are first drafts, not really sounding grammatically correct, at least in the confines of English. Regardless if it's a translation error or not, the name Polonian Mall implies that the people who reside in Tatsumi Port Island have their own civilization. It have been their own country made by the Korijo, which actually makes the implications of their actions significantly darker later in the game. Just a little headcanon if this grammatical error ever made it into the final game. There is a placeholder model of Cerberus, however accessing it is completely abstruse. You need to enter these codes to replace Fuka's persona, Lucia, or Juno to load the unused Cerberus model. The reason for this is unknown, however, it is speculated that this is just a placeholder for Fuka's personas, as they never appear in-game, just in cutscenes. The model itself is reused from Shin Megami Tensei, and as a non-Shin Megami Tensei player, I thought the model was pretty badass. I do like the final model of Cerberus for Koromaru though. The healing bub, once again, is very similar to a reload mechanic. I know people give Reload a lot of shit for not being the most one-to-one remake of Persona 3, often excluding a bunch of ideas from 3 and FES, but the obvious ideas taken from the original game's development are really nice to see, and I do appreciate them being in-game. Some of the most famous pieces of voice lines from Persona 3 are the cheating lines in the game, where Fuka and Mitsuru will scold the player for using a cheating device. Everyone's heard them to death by now, but I'll play a couple of them.
Cheating, huh? I'm disappointed in you!
You're cheating. I'll have to punish you.
The track 61.ADX is very odd. It sounds entirely different compared to the rest of the game's sound design. Take a listen. This is theorized to have been a level up theme, as it has similarities to Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga. I believe this to be true as video games tend to follow a trend of being inspired by a generational title, as Final Fantasy VII, one of my favorite video games of all time to the shock of absolutely zero people, was almost 10 years old at the time. There are 3 early versions of the Tartarus theme, the voice someone calls, which would gain intensity as the game progressed. Despite the 3rd track being the most intense, it is still insanely different from the final track. Honestly, these are pretty mid to me, but putting these on for a full playthrough of Persona 3 would be pretty hard, and definitely give Tartarus a different vibe. The most important track in Persona 3 is 100% Burn My Dread. I honestly really dislike the remix and reload, so hearing the instrumental was a godsend to me. This version of the song uses a 48,000 Hz instead of the 24,000 Hz the final release does. And although I still find the original to be peak perfection in terms of music, the prototype is absolutely incredible. The enemy AI in Persona 3 is a very overlooked section by the game devs, being either coded wrong or unused. However, there is an instance of correct coding that makes their moves highly improbable. In the Jin 2 encounter, Jin scans the party and uses the weaknesses of the party members for the fight. However, his targeting has a set priority: slash, strike, pierce, fire, ice, electric, wind, light, dark, with slash being the highest priority and dark being the lowest. He will never use lower priority skills, as long as an ally with a higher priority is still alive. This can lock him into using 2 or 3 of his skills out of his absurd 25 plus skill set. I have tried to find information on his exact skills, but I haven't had any luck on that, so if somebody in the comments can verify all of his skills, go nuts. During the game's development, all romantical characters had the Lover's Arcana, and their solution to this was to remove some planned social links. The IDs removed were 02, 03, 09, 15, and 20. These directly corresponded with Elizabeth, who was originally Priestess, the antique shop owner, who was Empress, Aegis, the weapon shop owner, who was Justice, and Koromaru, which was Strength. Elizabeth's remnants of her social link are actually her dates, which honestly was pretty obvious, and Aegis and Koromaru were repurposed for their nightly walks. They completely scrapped the weapon shop and antique shop though, not having any relevance in any version of Persona 3. I'm interested in what the weapons and antique shop owners would have looked like, as these are incredibly minor characters that actually do tie into the story in a way, unlike the Moon Arcana. The weapon shop owner knows Akihiko and presumably Shinjiro as well, and while not explicitly stated, the antique shop owner seems to have known Ikutsuki, as she used to do research on personas as well. Hacking in Fuka to be a playable party member is completely broken. She has Makoto's model, Junpei's battle portrait, and an early one-handed sword animation which can be seen in pre-release screenshots. Speaking to her or reaching her turn in battle immediately crashes the game, so she does absolutely nothing of work. I genuinely love everything about this. I hope the Persona fandom gives this abomination of a placeholder a name and gives it fan art. This game's concept art is really interesting, as from the concept art, it seems that most characters have little to no visual changes. That is, except for Mitsuru, she has the most drastic change in concept versus a visual design. I can't tell if I like it or not. The jet black hair would be cool, but it's hard to tell if I actually like it or if the thousands of times of seeing her makes it just too off-putting. Honestly, it's a mixed bag for me. It kinda looks like they had her red hair already done, but just opened up MS Paint and changed it to black just to see how good it would look. Getting to see these Persona arts for the first time was really cool, especially Messiah and Thanatos, who are my favorite Personas in any version of Persona 3. This art of Nyx is actually so unsettling to me. I know she is Death, and her model in Persona 3 and Reload make her seem so blank, but I genuinely think this piece of art makes her so much more unnerving and intimidating. Actually being in front of this thing would be the worst feeling imaginable, and I would jump off the tower Sonic CD style, no hesitation. And by the way, while researching this video on the Megaten wiki while looking at the Persona 3 gallery, I saw this art which is stated to be the incomplete Nyx avatar, which is super metal and creepy. Obviously, this is never seen anywhere in the game, so it's likely just a piece of concept art, but holy shit, just finding out about this thing's existence for the first time was mind-blowing. It's like learning about Flying Battery Zone originally being made for Sonic 3 and not Sonic & Knuckles. Crazy shit. Here's a bit of cool art I found from the Persona 3 art book. I really love the art for it, and I'm particularly fond of this image with someone's shadow appearing underneath them. It is a bit disappointing Reload didn't get many pieces of art like this, however the few we do have go insanely hard as well. When planning and researching this video, I was debating whether I should include the Persona 3 prototype, and ultimately I decided against it. I want to focus on things about Persona 3 I was actually interested in rather than just listing everything off the cutting room floor. However, I will mention this battle system prototype, as it's very different from the final battle system. The main things of note is that it seems to be automated, probably a mock-up, and the character uniforms are from St. Hermlin High, which is the school from Persona 1. Probably a placeholder, but I thought it was pretty neat. The character Tanaka is pretty famous for not only being a recurring minor character across all the modern Persona games, but also being able to skip the entire final day of the game. Why does this happen? Well, in Persona 3, Tanaka was originally a daytime social link, and in FES, he was changed to a nighttime social link. However, the devs forgot to remove his appearance on January 31st, so starting his link at night will warp you to the March 3rd cutscene. This skip is hilarious. Tanaka scams you out of a final boss, truly being a testament to how well written he is. In Persona 3 Portable, only on a New Game Plus ending, instead of Aigis appearing in the final cutscene, it can be a romance character as long as they are a party member. This honestly makes the game's ending significantly more heartbreaking to me. I am such a bitch when it comes to the Persona 3 ending, and when I first got to this part in Portable, I thought I was already desensitized to it, but nope. It reopened the feeling I got when I first played the game. Persona 3 is a sad game, dog. Here's a tidbit a surprising amount of people don't know. In Persona 3, the Hermit social link gives you and your teacher nicknames, being Tatsuya and Maya. This is a reference to Persona 2, as those are the main characters' names. I include this because a lot of people don't know about them, as these games are completely inaccessible to most people. We actually got new art of them a few days ago thanks to the 30th anniversary promotion and merch. They look so sick. Here's to another 15 years of asking for remake/ports, that way we can finally see them again. These pieces of trivia might either disappoint some people or even upset some people. In the files of Persona 3 Reload, there is unused text, very ominously reminiscent of something from Persona 3 Portable. It is the Vision Quest, of course. This can be found in this folder. To make things even worse, in the game, there are 2 strings of text. You may wonder, what could these strings possibly contain to make the sting of no Vision Quest worse? Well, these strings are actually linked to the characters Ryo and Sayori, both Kotone exclusive characters in Persona 3 Portable. It is unknown if these were originally planned to be in Reload or just unused data from Portable. Either way, including this in the game is a real punch in the face. I am so sorry to all Portable fans out there. And that about finishes the Persona 3 bonus video. Researching and scripting a video was pretty fun. I was completely out of my element as I mainly do Dokkan videos now, but I loved researching one of my favorite video games of all time. I hope to eventually do a Persona 4 bonus video because, you know, I really do love Persona, and preferably before Revival comes out, whenever that'll be. Thank you for sticking this far. I appreciate the support you've given this video, and I hope you'll stick around for more. I occasionally stream on Twitch, so I'll pop in for some occasional streams. They're mostly Dokkan reactions and shit, because, you know, I love Dokkan. Dokkan's kind of like the centerfold of my channel, but I do, like, want to do more scripted content because, like, I love Persona, and, you know, like, maybe some Sonic too. I love Sonic. I've scripted a couple of Sonic videos, but I never went out with them. I never, like, finished them, you know, never recorded audio for them. But, yeah, I now have to edit this whole video, and hopefully that gets done soon. I do not want to spend, multiple weeks editing this video when it's been about an hour and a half since I started recording all this audio. I appreciate you sticking around, and, like and subscribe.